Jay. Thanks for joining us today. And how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it's a
good.
pleasure to be speaking to you.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for your time. And I know you've had a busy night flying back in, so I really appreciate you being here today.
Yeah, happy. All good.
Look, what we ask our guests to start with, because we know our audience love to hear your journey into the sector. So, would you share how you end up where you are with Sagewood?
Yeah, it's been a journey. I think we're pushing about 29 years now. So there's been a lot of history there, but I think it all shapes to where Sagewood is today, and I'm really proud to have Sagewood and have had the journey that I have. So, becoming qualified when I was only 16 and a half, and then realizing that I wanted to work in a baby's room, and you needed to be 18 and have 100 hours. So I was like, oh well, I don't have that. So went and started a nannying journey, then came back and worked as qualified educators, room leaders, gained that experience working in the services, worked my way up into leadership roles, directors, assistant directors, and then was very fortunate through the change of structures within companies that I then got to develop my career with some large national companies that gave me the ability to sort of lead and guide services that at one stage, I think I had 92 centres that I was looking after.
That's
Um, yeah, it was a lot. But I think, sometimes when you get those challenges, it gives you the biggest learning and the capacity of what's important and what's a priority. Um, so yeah, and then through sales of business, seeing myself change companies, take on different roles, and build those relationships across the industry, and yeah, then was able to partner with Greg and create Sagewood, and we have our 6 services as it is today. So it's been an amazing journey, and I think the highlight and probably the biggest change was having my own child, which has changed the perception of where it's a job and it's a passion, to then actually truly understand where that love and that emotion actually comes from, and that we have the biggest responsibility when someone hands a child over to us as a parent.
oh,
It
absolutely.
Everything goes into perspective of what is actually important. And I think we hear so much cliche about children are so important, and which of course they are. It's why we do what we do. But I think for me and in my journey, having my own daughter is what has shaped Sagewood to be what it is today, because it's how you feel as a staff member, and then it's how you feel as a parent. And that's where our values came from, and yeah, why we created Sagewood.
Yeah, and having visited Woodvale, it is fantastic. What you've got through there is a beautiful, very homely, it's very well. I mean, I'm a parent of 3 kids, so I get what you're saying. When you go to put your child into care, you're actually trusting people you really don't know.
100%. It's
So
a yeah, that I think the trust and that sense of safety, and that love and nurture, in that you need to be like a school mum. You
mm,
have to take on that role of a mother, above all else. Like, it's
yeah,
you want the best for your own child, and you want them to be treated differently to everybody else, because you just want them to have it all. Like, it's that they're so important to you, and that's the critical part of what we do in our business, that these children need to be like they're our own babies. And we need to love them like that, and make sure that they're given all of those opportunities. So,
yeah, and it is. And I mean, when you think about babies, they're 0 to 3. They're vulnerable. They can't speak up. They really all they want's cuddles, love,
yeah,
and and that bonding thing which we all
yeah,
talk about, and it's and that's what, as a parent, that's what you're putting that child in. You're going, hey, I want you to do what I would do as a parent. Um,
100%. Yeah.
yeah,
My
and I
baby's 13 now, and she's still my baby. And it's I actually got a cuddle this morning, so that was nice. Maybe going away is a good thing. You actually get those
they
hugs.
miss you.
They do. They miss you for that moment until you tell them what to do.
I tried to give my 25-year-old son a cuddle last night, and he goes, "Oh no!" So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I get that a lot.
it doesn't change with age either.
Yeah.
But look, thank you for sharing that. What I'll say is, what I hear, your journey was planned. You were wanted to be in the early learning sector with babies from the minute you left school.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did want to be a teacher, but then I don't like the technical study side of. I like to always learn, but and I never like to fail. So I didn't do my teaching degree and thought, well, I'll go and do my diploma because that's safer. I won't fail that, and I still get to be with children. So
Yeah. Oh, that's so lovely. Because quite often, through some of the guests I've had, their journey is like literally they fell into the sector through a variety of ways, and not necessarily been their first thing to go from school. So it's actually really nice to have someone on who started like you just went, I want to be with children. It's so
yeah.
lovely and refreshing.
Yeah, well, yeah, I had to beg my dad to let me leave school, and yeah, left school and began that journey.
Wow. Wow. Well, look, what we'll do is we're going to talk about aligning strengths and roles in the sector, and we'd love to have your expertise with this. So, would you be able to explain to us the concept of right people, right role in the context of early learning services? And why it's critical to the success of our services and educational institutions.
Look, I mean, I think if you box people into something, it's like boxing a child. You're not going to get the best outcomes. You've got to consider them as individuals, and you've got to have a look at where their strengths sit. So, when you consider the terminology of right person, right role, I think you look at our industry and how it's changed over the years, and then you look at where the passion comes and that nurture comes from, predominantly females working with children. you People have babies, people change, their career change, life changes. You can have a strength with someone like myself who I don't want to study. I don't want. I want the end result, but I don't want to do that study side. So if you can find the right person that's got the passion and is aligned to the values and can execute what's required for the child, the family, and the company, then it's looking at that. For us, and especially with Sagewood, it's considering how do you upskill people? How do you work with that part-time capacity of staff? How do you change what is, I guess, within a budget and regulation requirements of, well, that's the minimum standard. It's how do you actually look at where those people sit? And yes, you're always going to meet regulations, but we sit at all of our services above qualification requirements. We look at how do we support people to achieve their goals and their vision, whether it is a little bit of training, whether it's on the job training, whether it's that PD, whether it's that mentoring, and allow for that capacity of flexibility to work with what their strengths are.
That's amazing because that really, I mean, your staff must love you. They are,
I'm
to have
sure I
that.
drive them nuts at times, but I do have quite a few long-term staff that have worked with me for a long time. And I think it's it's like, right person, right role, but it's building those relationships, and it's always finding out the why. People behave in certain ways, and you need to understand why they're behaving like that. And when you can understand that, then I think you can come to a common ground of, well, why are we both actually together? Why are we both actually doing what we're doing? And how do we best support each other to get to where we need to be? And sometimes those paths can be short. Other times they can be long, or other times they can actually go off course and then they can actually come back. And it's, yeah, you've got to sort of roll with that element of flexibility and really think about who are those right people that need to be on the journey with you for the time and the place of where you're at.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, I mean, even if we look at ourselves, it's the same thing, isn't it? Life changes, babies,
100%. Yeah.
you know, you just don't know what the future holds. So and that's for all of us.
Yep.
And it sounds like what you're doing there is giving your staff and your team the opportunity, and not necessarily be about your service, but actually about them and their opportunity.
Well, that's it. If you look after your staff and you meet those staff needs to, within reason. But
Yeah,
if you listen to them and you hear them, I think you get that longevity out of them, and then you actually get them performing the best job that they can be, and therefore what those children are experiencing is the best because everyone's actually happy, and it's taking that moment of stepping back and yeah, understanding the why behind who people are and where are
yeah.
they coming from, and um, yeah, working towards that common goal.
And I suppose really what it comes down to then is also looking at what motivates them
Mm-hmm.
to get the best out of them for your company and your
Yep.
organisation. And then obviously it would impact their outcomes as students and also the children's outcomes.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes, so that, which is fantastic. That's what we're looking for, right? To be a positive role model, positive outcomes for children, and always that continuing improvement of practices and things like that. Um, do you see how it impacts the overall functioning of your service? Have you sort of been able to gauge the difference of, if you're following what you do, and the way you lead and help your team, can you see that positive outcome? Is probably what I'm saying.
I think you can see it in the long service of staff. I've got staff that have been with us now for the 4 years of the journey of Sagewood. I think you can see in the outcomes of if you look at on a financial capacity, on a quality capacity, and that we've got high occupancy. We are getting those quality ratings through the assessment and rating process. We are being recognised within the community through that word of mouth. We do partner with suppliers like Elma, Play Active, Safe for Kids. I obviously work very closely with the Australian Childcare Alliance for that advocacy piece for where children sit and where the industry sits in, being a voice and showing the quality of what we all need to do and what we all need to do to work together, which
Yeah,
I think is really important. So
yeah.
it's yeah, the specific data I don't have, but I
But
think when people like yourselves walk into services and you feel it, I believe that that's the difference.
it
You
is, and I did. It was lovely. I still, I mean, it was a year ago now, but I still can. It left me when I left. It left me with a really great impression. So I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's about making sure that those families feel that when they drop their children off, that they can go to work, they can go home, they can go and do whatever they need to do for the reason and understanding that they've put their child into Sagewood, or in general. I think if anyone is looking at for their services, it's you've got to create that feeling for that parent that they can go and do what they need to do and have that sense of trust, and that we provide that quality care, and that as educators in the industry that we are all wanting to be that support and that home away from home and be there for the children.
Yeah, and that at the end of the day, that's what we're all doing. Even for me, sitting here talking to you, our focus is still about caring for our children and the children in our care, as well. So no, it's fantastic when we get to see what you guys do out there as well. Yeah, so it looks fantastic. Look, what are some effective strategies you use to identify the unique strengths of each staff member?
I think it's about the one-on-one and the relationships. looking at strengths is, as an owner, is being hands-on and being in the services. I do try to interview a lot of staff. If I don't get to interview the staff, I deliver all of our inductions. So I like to, start that process.
Yep.
It's giving the tools to the staff so they can self-reflect and believe in themselves as well. Because I think that if someone is happy, it's working to their strengths, there's obviously always that reflection and that need to develop yourself
Yep.
in that learning, because we're not perfect and we all have to take on that feedback. But I believe that if someone's given the opportunity to speak or to voice or to communicate and go after what they want, then you're working to the strengths of that person. And it's those face-to-face inductions, it's those face-to-face interviews, it's the face-to-face check-ins, it's being available that then allows people to work to their strength.
And and they look to you for guidance from there as well, obviously, and
Yeah.
just that next step. And it's not always about micromanaging or anything like that, but it's allowing them to come to you.
Well, look, I think you've got to have those systems and processes in place. There has to be, like children, there's got to be that scope for them to do what they do. They've got to understand what their limits are. They've got to know, how far they can go, but they also need to know that you're there. And when they reach out and they need that support, that you respond and that you give them the support that they need. And it's, because you've hired them for a reason, you've seen something in them,
Yeah.
and you've got to foster that. So it's creating those relationships to enable them to then come back to you and give you that support.
Is there any tools or observation techniques that you use that give you a sort of a bit of an edge or a bit of a clue about where they should be? Or, because obviously some of us go, oh, I think I'm going to go here. And you go, I think we should try this way. And obviously that some people have lack of confidence in being a manager or about looking at that leadership roles. What do you do, or what sort of things do you use to gauge that?
I think it's creating opportunity and involvement in that, to create a team, it's just not one person's approach. So for us at Sagewood, it's probably around our leadership meetings that start at a centre level that then carry through to head office, that we empower them as a point of a room leader is a leader, and they have a team underneath them and they have a team that they've got to work collaboratively with. And so from those room leader meetings, we can see who's taking on that leadership, who's got those values, who's got that ability to communicate. And if we can see that they're in that role and then they're not, it's how do we support that at a center level and build it from there and creating those opportunities. Because sometimes people then come out and they realize, oh, hang on, being in head office or being in the center director is not just having coffee. There's a lot that goes with that. So
The coffee helps.
the coffee is a necessity, I would say. Maybe a wine on a Friday or maybe during the week. um, but I don't think we've got one particular tool or one particular strategy. It's the foundation of, like anything, it's building relationships, it's getting to know people, and it's really understanding the why. If you don't know why you're doing something, then you're never going to execute it. And if you don't explain it and create the space and the opportunity to have those conversations, then you can't truly get people's feedback or their opinions. And you've got to have a look at where personalities and dynamics sit, because some people can be overpowering in a meeting, but what other ways do you give people the opportunity to provide feedback? And that's where our one-on-ones that I will do with staff, at least 3 times a year as a check-in. It's building that there is more than just, well, you can send an email, or, you're not being heard by your centre director, or there's a frustration there. You can, talk about it and resolve it.
Yeah, and because sometimes it's like a small issue, but by not addressing it and letting it build and not actually asking someone,
Yep.
we all know it ends up being bigger than we need it to be. It's out of proportion, and then you've got a bigger issue to resolve.
100%. Yeah. If you can raise something as a small issue, and again, it will go back to my why. And I'm sure some of my staff are like, oh my God, there she goes with that why. But if you can understand and you explain that to start with and know where two people are coming from, it could simply be that someone has got their own personal stuff going on and they just simply can't take on anybody else's personal stuff. It's not that they don't want to, it's just that they can't.
They
And so
can't.
if
Yeah,
you can just understand where people sit on a day-to-day basis in, just generally, it's understanding that why. And if you raise something as a small issue, it can generally be resolved without it becoming momentous. And it's listening and it's talking and it's communicating and creating those opportunities to do that.
absolutely. And look, just on that subject of the why, we are a highly regulated sector. And if you actually don't understand why you've got to do something for even from a regulatory authority, you don't get it. You don't understand it, and then it becomes very like, oh, that's okay. I'll just do that. I'll just do this. Often it's the tick and the flick thing going on rather than actually understanding this is actually a regulation, and the reason we do it is around child safety or environment,
Yeah,
meeting those regulations. So yeah, by understanding even the most simple things actually can make a difference to breaches, fines, all of that.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, yeah. Like, when you've identified an individual, what sort of things do you do to align their roles and responsibilities within your service? Is there a technique you've got, or is it just what do I need, who do I look for, and then matching those?
Yeah, I mean, it's fostering it. It comes back to our values of nurture, love, and inspire. It's, create. Sometimes you just can't create a director's position, but leadership is more than just a director's position. Their positions are extremely important. But if understanding what is it that they want, do they want a title, or do they actually want a challenge, or do they just want to learn more, or is it that they want to get off the floor? Why do they want to get off the floor? Generally, they think it's easier, but it's not always. I don't believe that there's anything sort of specifically. And through, if I have a look at Tara, our executive operations manager, she worked with me as a casual, then went through as early childhood teacher, assistant director. She's opened new services with me, and now she's executive operations manager. She has gone through those challenges, and she has put herself out there and put herself forward to create an opportunity too. So as much as it is about me fostering people, people have to use their own drive and initiative and want
Yes,
something too.
yes,
You
exactly,
want it,
exactly.
you have to go after it. And
Yeah,
it doesn't always happen today, but I believe if you do truly want something, you will find a way to get it because you will work at it. And it's understanding that, yeah, sometimes it's just maybe not the right time, and there will be a right time.
yeah. and
So
and really keeping pushing yourself forward, isn't it? It's just keeping yourself on
yeah,
that track of where you want to be. And and sometimes we digress and we go in different ways, but it's still that plan ahead. No matter where we end up, by having that plan, we end up somewhere good.
yeah, 100%. And it's, I think sometimes we can get lost in the title of something, but ultimately we're all in this industry for the children, and we need our roles to create that foundation for children. But if you lose sight of wanting to be there for the children, then I think you've lost sight of the big picture.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's about the title and not the children, then
Yeah.
it's not. Yeah, it's. Now I know nothing's ever perfect. Nothing ever works the way you want it to do. What happens when you have a mismatch, and how do you go about resolving that, or making adjustments so you go, oh, this probably wasn't what I hoped for. Now I need to like change something. Does that happen?
Yes, every day. um, isn't that just life?
Yeah, it is. It
Yeah.
is.
Look, it just it comes back to talking, and it's creating that relationship and that foundation and really understanding why. And I like to think everything is going to be perfect, and I always want to be the best, and I want everything to be right, and I'm probably a bit of a perfectionist on that capacity, but it doesn't go right. And it's that self-reflection, it's that admission of, yeah, I've done something wrong here, or how have I played that part in regards to where things sit. And it's being real in that capacity of leadership, and going, yeah, okay, well, it just hasn't worked, and we've got to fix it, and how do we make it right.
And for both you and the staff member and
Yeah,
the
correct.
organisation, because the
Yep,
impact is across everyone.
correct. Yeah. So it's yeah, I'm trying to think of where things are at, and where we've had those experiences, and I think it's not about blame, it's taking accountability for where you sit as an individual. How do you do it better? It's that, as much as I say I don't want to study, I'm really open to learning all the time. So it's how do I be better? How do I take on board? How do I look at things differently? And it's not about having a team of where everyone just says yes. You've got to have the team of where they go, well, I don't agree with this. And it's like, well, okay, why? And
And they're probably going to give you back the why. Why,
they
Jay?
do.
Why,
Yeah,
Jay?
why? Because
Tell
if
us
they can
why.
justify to me a why, then it will mean that they're going to execute that so much better than me just telling them do this. That they're going to
Mm.
do it with their own passion and their own spin and their own sense of confidence, that ultimately it's going to work better. So it's taking that moment to step back and listen and go, okay, well, yeah, what's
Uh,
going on and why.
yeah. And also, do you see when someone approaches you and you ask them, why do you want to do that? What's your methodology behind it? When you give them that opportunity, because it's that ownership for them, it probably is more likely to be successful.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I have a look at all of my services. They're all, and I say it a lot, they're same, but different. And each service has got its own little spin on kind of getting to the outcomes. And sometimes it's not how I want to do it, and it's where I can have a deep breath multiple times a day. But if it's still achieving those outcomes, then it's a win-win.
And it's a win-win. And of course, then you're not thinking for everyone. Everyone's thinking for themselves.
Yeah.
And having the differentiating between those services is really about individuality as well, of the teams you've chosen on their strengths and on what they do,
Yeah. And
for
then it's the
those
community
services.
too. It's that each group of children are different, each community is different, each suburb's different. That it's all going to play a part in how something happens and how it
Yes,
gets done. So it's ultimately the outcome is that we're providing that space for children that is safe and it's nurturing, and our values are embedded, and those parents can walk away feeling safe. So as long as that happens, then it's
everything else is good.
everything else is good.
Oh, look, what we do love to know is what your thoughts are on what is facing the sector across the next sort of 2, 3, 5 years from your perspective.
Look, I think we don't know what's ahead of us. I don't think anyone does. I think the commitment that our advocacy bodies like Australian Childcare Alliance is that we're committed to doing what is right for the children and what is right for the educators. And it's about collaborating and working together to ensure that those children get that best start in life. That whatever challenges come about, that we build those relationships, we understand why, and we work together with a solution on facing it together. And I think as an industry, we have to come together more. We have to unite on our passions, and we need to use our advocacy bodies to strengthen what we already have.
And that's I know the Australian Childcare Alliance, they do an amazing job around Australia,
Yeah, they
um,
do.
supporting and advocating for the sector.
Yep,
So
100%. And
it's
it's
fantastic.
advocating for the sector, for the children and for the
Yes,
staff. And
yes.
it's not about oneself. It's really about everyone coming together for that. So, we all have, no matter what our sort of, tagline is or branding is or whatever it is, but we are all there for the children to give them that best start in life. So
Mm.
yeah, the challenges, like life, that happens. There's going to be lots of celebrations too, I'm sure, and lots of wins. And I think we have to stay focused to the positive and work to what we know and be positive. If we focus continually on challenges, then that's what you actually get. What do we
Challenges.
have? Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So what do we have, and what do we want to stand up for, and what do we want to advocate for, and what do we believe in? And if you focus on that, you work those goals and you work those strategies to that.
Yeah, and I suppose whatever happens in those next 2, 3, 5 years, following that recipe, you're going to conquer those things that are a
Yeah,
challenge or celebrate those wins.
100%.
So,
Yeah,
look, now that's actually a great perspective.
yeah.
Thank
Well,
you for that. Now, lastly, before we go, and I know it's not on our little sheet that we have shared.
oh no, don't test me.
No, that's not a test. It's, do you have a wise word or a motivational quote that inspires you?
Hmm. Um, I think it's about being better every day. For me, I think on my journey, professionally and personally, is that every day I want to do better than I did yesterday. And I may not have done it right yesterday, but I've got today to actually do it again and to have another go. And you can be the best person that you want to be with having a really great group of people around you. And yeah, so for me, it's probably every day is a new day, and if you be better than you were yesterday, then you're moving forward.
Yeah, and actually, I think a lot of us forget that we have tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, we
Yeah,
may not have tomorrow, so you give
actually,
today
yeah, that's true. We may
the
not.
best shot. Yeah, you give today the best shot, and you be grateful for what you have and where it sits, and you can compare and you can go why, and I want that and I want that, and it's like, well, okay, but you've actually chosen this, so you do that, and you do it the best that you can. And if you want something different tomorrow, well, then you go after that tomorrow. But
Tomorrow. Yeah.
you do the best that you can today with what you've got, and you be grateful for that. And I think that's something that I'm still learning, and personally and professionally, to where those challenges sit. It takes a lot of strength, to focus on that, but that's what I try and tell myself each day. And when I'm having those moments of struggle to where it's like, oh God, I don't know anymore, I then pull it back and go, okay, but why am I doing this, and what am I grateful for, and who do I have around me, and let's be better tomorrow.
Yeah, and actually, that's really lovely to to just realign and think, because all of us get flustered, all of us lose sight of what we were trying to do, but just to be able to bring it back. That's really wise words, Jay. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Welcome.
Well, that concludes our lovely conversation today with you, Jay. I
Yeah.
appreciate your time,
No,
and
thank
look
you for
forward.
having me.
Yeah, pleasure, always a pleasure, and I look forward to catching up with you actually next week.
Yes, no, we will.
Next week
Yeah,
after.
yeah. Well, I know it's in the calendar. It will.
It is
I will
very
see. Yep, I will see you very, very soon. And
sure. Sure.
yeah, look forward to chatting again.
Fantastic. Me too. You take care. We'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks, Paula.
Thank you.